work for its people regardless of color. I feel that if in 20 years you have not performed, you have not delivered on the promises that you have made, and you keep asking people to be patient and to give you another chance, something has to give. And if you aren't able to do it in 20 years, you need to step aside. You need to step aside and let somebody else try to fix the ills. And if you don't want to do that, that is wrong. And people who believe that just because, something that people say, oh, he's such a people person, he's a nice guy, he's friends with everybody. What we want is not somebody who's friends with everybody. We want a worker, We want a worker, because I can be nice with everybody. And I do believe by and large, I am nice with most people, if not everybody. But more than that, beyond the people person persona, we want a worker. We want somebody who is honest. And if I cannot deliver, and I need to be honest, and I need to say I cannot deliver. And that is the kind of politician that I want to be. A leader who can be held up to the light, not one who asks for patience after 20 years, after 50 years, after a lifetime. And that is why I'm stepping up to the plate. That is why I am going up. Because in all of the years that I've been alive, that I've been living in Labrie, we have not seen real change.
Not even on radio or anywhere. So we may have to stop it, the program.
Yes, we're on the radio.
We're
just having some issues on Facebook, etc., etc. We're working on that right now.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're
so
fine.
This is why I need to do this. This is why I am stepping up to the plate. I cannot sit by quietly and let my dream, and it's been a dream, Andre, when I say I can let my dream, I think I chuckle at myself, because since I was 21 years old, I've been asked. And I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that at some point, this day would have arrived, but I kept pushing against it. I kept saying no, I kept denying myself, and I cannot deny it anymore. I cannot deny it anymore. I think we need a representative that is a go-getter, and I think maybe when I was 21, I maybe would not have brought to the table what I can bring to the table now.
Okay, sorry to disturb you. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on YouTube.
Great, wonderful. So, yes.
Yeah, we just went off for a while, but we're actually on the air on our normal radio program.
Okay, normal radio programming. Yes. So for those of you who are listening and viewing on X or on YouTube, we're so sorry that you didn't hear my first part of it. But not to worry, there will be opportunities where I will be repeating myself why I am doing this. And really and truly, the long and short of it is that I'm doing this because for 50 years, Labrie has been represented by the St. Lucia Labour Party, and I can count on the one hand the number of things that they have done and they have changed. We talk about the Major Mill Road that they're talking about. Half of the road is closed, okay? Yes, they resurfaced the road, but they put a chain across the road saying private property, so we can access the road that we paid for with our taxpayers' money. They repaired the market for 13 years. They promised us a market, and only now, in April of this year, they gave us the market. But guess what, Andre? The market is still closed. When it rains, the market vendors are by the seaside, swimming in water because the market is not accessible to them. We have all sorts of other activities there. The market is still not accessible. Before the market was open, they quickly tried to repurpose the sidewalks. Those are some of the things that they've done in all of the years that I know myself being a Laborian. We had a community center. In that community center, had a court. Can you imagine? We used to have court in Labrie. It had the scouts then. It had the library. We now have a relatively new administrative center. Half the things we had before, it's not contained within the administrative center. So we're going backwards. For 20 years, we've had a rep who's keep asking, be patient, be patient. At what point are we going to see the doctor? That's my question. At what point are we going to see the doctor? We need a representative that can stand for us and that can show up for us and not ask us to be patient. Imagine on the eve of an election, you're still asking the people of Lagos to be patient because you have plans. For 20 years, you have been representing the people of Labrie and Oji, and you're still asking for patience because you have plans and you do not know when the election is going to be called. So it's time for honesty. It's time for accountability. It's time for change. And today I am here to say that I am ready. I am willing. And with your support, Labrie, Oji, Bans, Lagras, Olibo, Majomel, I will give it everything I have because our people deserve better. And together we will build. We will build that. We will do better.
No sound.
Okay? So having said that, I think we're still having some difficulties, but the show must go on. And even if it's on radio alone, they will hear us. That's okay. Andre will just invite us again. The good thing is we're here every Thursday. We're here every Thursday. So we'll be back for those of us who cannot hear on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay? Today, I have the pleasure of having with me one of my colleagues, my peers, a phenomenal woman, Mrs. Marcella Johnson. And she has spent her full career outside of being an entrepreneur has been in banking. And she's been breaking barriers in a field where women often have to work twice as hard to be taken seriously. And now she's stepping into politics, and like myself, she's an entrepreneur and she knows what it's like to put your shoulder to the wheel and to make things happen. Welcome, Marcella.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Yes, I've been a banker prior to me having my own business for 25 years. So I would have been an executive doing commercial loans as well as personal loans for a period of time. So I would have seen persons and understand their plight, especially persons trying to get their family into a situation where they would want to, such as educating their children, building homes, and so on. So I saw the struggles of person and understand what it really means to have financial freedom. And I would want to see that for most persons. After leaving the bank, I decided to start my own business, which has been successful, and my sons are running the business full-time, whilst I've taken up politics. And for me, getting into politics, I would say divine intervention for me, because it's not something that I would have said I wanted to be when I grew up. No. I mean, I have always been involved in politics somehow through the from at an early age of around 15, I would have been part of the youth arm for a short while. But every summer, I would have worked with electoral office. So from that time, working with electoral every summer after school, I would have learned different processes of registration, verification. Every election from 1997, I've been involved in some form or the other as a presiding officer, election clerk. So I've been involved in politics in a way, but in 2023, I became the treasurer of the United Workers' Party, and this is where my political career really cemented. But prior to that, in 2020, I would have been the senator who would have helped pass the COVID bill at a time when St. Lucians were dying and persons were playing politics with persons' lives. I felt it was the right thing to do at the time to save lives because our family members were dying. It could have been our mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. And it was a world pandemic. And by passing that bill, St. Lucia was the best managed under the leadership of Alan Shastney in terms of COVID on the world stage. We had very few deaths until, as we know, there was this march right before the elections, and the deaths skyrocketed right after that. But prior to that, it was under control. So for me, It was a matter of country first, and I take it very seriously, helping our country so that our children can do better, the citizens of this country can have better lives and livelihoods. So getting into politics for me, I'm seeing firsthand the struggles of persons every day, especially the elderly, the lack of concern for the elderly, persons who have lived all their life and worked hard for this country through their sweat, hard work. They have built this country up, and now in their old age, it's like they are forgotten. There's no dignity. No dignity. So I see that, and it pains me. The youth, many of them, no opportunities for the youth. A lot of them are by the roadsides. They can't get proper employment. And it's not that they don't want to work. There's no proper avenues for them to work. And that is frustrating to them, you know? And we're in an economy, and you look at Grosile. Grosile is supposed to be the wealthiest constituency, yet what is not seen is that there's a lot of poverty within Grosile, in certain pockets of Grosile, and people are suffering, people are struggling, and it's painful, but there's no kind of relief from anybody. Nobody's actually seeing to their needs. I go on the ground every day, and I hear the stories. I see how people are living, the high cost of living, and what I can tell you about the high cost of living, this government didn't care. At a time when fuel prices were low, the lowest it had ever been. And if you look at our neighbors across the other Caribbean islands, fuel prices were lower than St. Lucia, who is better. We are located better strategically in terms of our port, but yet our fuel prices are much higher. And the government tax us indirectly by not lowering the price of fuel. Fuel impacts every aspect of life, every aspect of business. If the fuel prices are high and you have a business, transportation is high for you. Your distribution system, that becomes high. These costs are passed on to the consumers. Electricity costs are higher because fuel prices are higher. These costs are passed on to the consumer. Every aspect of business is higher when fuel prices are kept higher. So it didn't do anything good for St. Lucians. And then you also had, in a time when prices were rising, the government implemented a tax, the Health and Security Levy, which is still there as we speak today, on the backs of St. Lucians. So we are in a crisis, and the government is taxing us. Is that putting people first? No, that's not caring. And very recently, Andre, I don't know if you'd have seen it, but I've been attacked all over social media for making a factual statement. No, let me make my point. For making a factual statement. Andre, on Monday, August 18th, I was on the show Like It Is, and I made a statement that the government had not removed the VAT on sanitary napkins. The Tuesday, legislation was passed in the House of Assembly to permanently remove the VAT on sanitary napkins. When I made the statement, there was VAT because there was no legislation. Yet, Lisa Jawair, a senator, would go on her Facebook page and plaster over a video of me, liar, liar, liar. A senator who persons are looking up to, who has been part of this administration, the SLP administration, for almost 5 years, part of the decision making, part of the bills. Just a few months before, VAT was removed on 70 food items. Sanitary napkins was not part of the listing. And yet a few weeks later, you are going to pass legislation to remove it. So it was never there. How could you call me a liar? So I need to right this wrong right now.
So you're saying when the statement was made, when you made the statement, it had not been removed as yet. The government had not removed it as yet. That happened the following day. That's what you're saying?
Yes, and even when they passed the legislation, as I'm speaking to you right now, VAT has not been removed. And if any
Oh, you're
business,
saying it still hasn't been removed?
if any business charges, removes VAT on sanitary napkins right now, they are breaking the law. So allow me to go through the process for you. Allow me. When a bill goes through the lower house, the bill is passed in the lower house. That is not the final stage. It then goes to the upper house, the Senate, where it is also passed. So that was done the first day of that week. But that is not the final stage. The bill then has to go to the Governor General for royal ascension. And after it goes to the Governor General for that royal ascension, it then has to be gazetted at least twice. So that's another 14 days. So as we speak right now, this law has not been, it is not final. So the businesses ought not to be removing VAT on sanitary napkins because they would be breaking the law.
But more than that, Marcella, they will be charged VAT because they will be paying the VAT.
Yes.
Because it's a compounded tax. Because you pay the VAT and then you pass it on to the consumer. And if you remove it, you're at a loss. Because you have to pay government the VAT. Right? Because government is expecting that. Right? So you're at a loss. You're at a loss. You've paid it and you have not passed it on to the end consumer. You know, and this is what we are confronted with week after week after week. Misrepresentation after misrepresentation after misrepresentation, you know, and couple that with misogyny. It's crazy. This is a government who claims that they're putting the people first. They claim to be putting the people first. But what have we seen? Have we seen them putting the people first? I mean, this is mind-blowing what Marcella has just disclosed. It is mind-blowing, you know? And you will go on there, and to make matters worse, it's one thing when a man comes down on you as a woman, you know, but it's another thing entirely when your own women folk come down on you. Because you know what? Women like Marcella, myself, Leanna, we are defending women.
So
Women like that
Lisa.
senator as well.
Do you think on the part of Senator Juwahiri that she probably was quote-unquote ignorant about the facts that you just enunciated?
I would say she was probably, but what I would like to say is that she needs to do her job properly. Because this is not the first time she has aired. And to call me a liar, come on, you need to have more decorum as a woman. And if she wants to learn decorum, she needs to come to the school of Marcel's decorum school. Okay? So she needs to go and understand what she's doing as a senator. So don't come and try to spin the truth and say, I am lying, when you know full well that the law to permanently remove the VAT on sanitary napkins was not done in the first place. And if it was done 2 years before, it was just a paper, right? Why 2 years before? If you're saying you're concerned about women, you're concerned about single mothers, that you didn't remove it outright. It was only an election gimmick. And now in an election year, you are coming and saying you are removing it permanently. What do you expect people to think? When it could have been done 2 years ago, and it was not done. If you are concerned about persons, you should not have implemented VAT, and you should have removed the VAT on sanitary napkins 2 years ago. Not now. and to go so low as to call me a liar. Well, when they go low, Andre, I go high. I don't get down into that kind of category and call people these kinds of names. No. I speak based on the truth. I present the truth. And that is what I would do for the people of St. Lucia. I will become a voice for the people of St. Lucia, especially the women in this country who have been marginalized, who have been demeaned from a sitting minister in cabinet. And Maudie Lewis will also go on her page and make similar allegations.
Remind us who Maudie Lewis is.
Go ahead.
Maudie Lewis is, I think she's the attaché, or she the press secretary in the Prime Minister's office. She's the one who will be telling us when the reporters go to press briefings, how many questions you can ask. She's very highly entrenched in there, So women look up to her. She's breaking barriers. She's in there. But is she really making the kind of contribution that we expect of her?
Hello. If women are looking up to you, you will not want to try to demean another woman.
Mm-hmm.
To go on her Facebook page and insinuate again that I'm lying and as if I have influenza. That is not the kind of behavior. Persons in office who should be upholding the highest decorum in the land because persons are looking up to you. That is not the type of behavior that we should be teaching our children out there. Persons in office, no. And as women who are nurturing and mentoring the next generation, is that who we want to be leading the people of St. Lucia?
But Marcella, let me ask you a question. Do you think that these two, in particular, these two women that you have mentioned, have been influenced by the misogyny in our society? Because by and large, St. Lucia is pretty much a man's world still to this day, 2025, even when we are seeing more women taking more higher positions in business. But in government, we seem to think that we're not supposed to be in the limelight, in the forefront, talking about matters that concern us and our society, and how, being policymakers. Do you think that they have been influenced by a certain minister of government, a certain parliamentarian who goes on the airwaves week after week after week after week, demeaning women?
Let me tell you, just to be clear, we don't seem to think that we cannot get into that level. At least I don't seem to think that. Okay? So we need to teach our women that anything a man can do, a woman can do it better. Okay? Women are the backbones of society. Women are the ones who carry children for 9 months, go through that pain, the burden. When the kids are up, when the kids are sick at night, we stay up late without sleep and have to go up the next day to take care of our children. No sleep, go to work, come back home, feed our children, manage the home, juggle the finances. We've been doing it in our homes. So we have the capability to do it in office. But you know what the problem is? Is the attacks on women, the demeaning nature of politics by persons in cabinet, other men, and sometimes women too. So we need to raise the bar so that women will want to enter politics so that they can make a difference. Because women have the capability. We are the backbone of society. We know what it is. And we have also heard it too. Women have intuition. And somebody gave me a definition of a woman, which I find is so real. A woman is the embodiment of virtues, characteristics, okay? Embodiment of virtues, characteristics, intuition. So that says a lot.
That is so true. And I think even now, when I came in this morning, I did not intend to speak about Mondi Lewis or what's the other one you mentioned? Lisa. I can never pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to butcher it.
Jawair, but we have to call them out because
I agree.
they are women.
I agree, but I did
and
not.
They should not be treating other women that way, especially knowing that in politics, most women do not want to enter politics for that same kind of behavior that they are engaging in.
I agree with you 100%, but my intention was to speak of another type of woman, another woman, Kimberly De Leon. I wanted to talk about her, and how can we expect to get justice for Kimberly De Leon when we have these kinds of women? So me coming here, I'm thinking we're going to be talking about, a lot of things that have been happening. A lot of things that have been happening, and one of them being Kimberly, the delayed justice for her family, her children, and now we're hearing about the issue of the evidence that has gone missing and the misrepresentation that has been swirling around that missing evidence. So I expected us to talk about women that we can not about women who are supposed to be championing the cause of other women who can no longer defend themselves or who can no longer stand for themselves. So it's very disheartening that we have to spend time talking about these women who are supposed to be, even though they're across the pond from us, they're supposed to be standing shoulder to shoulder with us, defending women, not us defending ourselves against them.
You spoke about misogyny earlier, okay? If the United Workers' Party were to win the elections, how do you address this issue?
Well, you see, the thing is, Andre, right now, we are going through a lot of training, preparing ourselves for governance, because we recognize that, the men in government right now, they didn't come from Mars. They came from our homes, from our communities, from our churches. They come from us. And as Marcella has been saying earlier, we have to stand up. We have to stand up as women and say we are your equal and we are not going to settle for less. And so we now have to find ourselves in a teacher role, so to speak, and to make normal treating women as equals. So our male counterparts, they know that the three of us, the three women that are in their midst, are not going to tolerate and not going to stand for anything less. And I think that is one of the reasons why, from the opposite side, every time a woman stands up and says enough or speaks out, we get demeaned. And I'm so happy to see.
And as you said a while ago, even by women. And I'm so happy. So this is a huge challenge.
It is huge because misogyny, a lot of people think that misogyny is just about the male towards the woman, but it's the way the woman looks at herself vis-a-vis her male counterparts. And I'm so happy to see that our men are standing up for us. We no longer have to be the ones to defend ourselves. Our men are standing up for us. And you would have seen that at the silent protest last Tuesday outside of Parliament. We had equal number of men standing up with us, saying enough is enough. We will no longer have our women, our wives, our mothers, our children be spoken to or demeaned in that way. And as I said, because our men come from our society, we can tackle it from that point, from that aspect.
But these men that you spoke about who are demonstrating or protesting, right, they don't hold the levers of power. So how can that effect change?
Well, of course, but it can. But that is what it is. Power is not residing within the 17 men and women who sit in Parliament. Power resides within the people and what the people want and what they will demand. And that is why you would have heard myself, Marcella, talk about a movement. This is not about politics in the sense that we've come to know it. This is about a movement. It's about propelling the people forward so that the people can get to demand what they need, what they deserve. It's not about the 17 men and women. When you vote, and I want St. Lucians to understand that clearly, when you vote, you're not voting a man or a woman into government. You are giving yourself a voice. You are giving yourself a voice. And when you accept men and women demeaning others the way we see, this is your voice. You are saying, I agree. When you do not ask them to stop, cease and desist, you're saying, this is my voice. I agree. And I know we don't agree. So that is where it starts. It starts with the people, letting the people understand that they are the ones with the power, not us. We are just there as advocates and workers to move things along the pipeline.
But Laura, you know the way our people think. The minute you see that they're supporting a particular party, anything the party / government does, it's okay with them.
And so this is where the social re-engineering starts. This is why there's 17 men and women at for the United Workers' Party. We are gearing ourselves towards that. Moving the people, moving them along, getting them to understand it is not socially acceptable to demean women. We are the cradle of society. We are the cradle. When I hear a man come to me and say, oh, you're going house to house, you're going door to door, and you don't have $1,000 in your pocket to buy drinks. Where are we going with that? We have to start re-engineering the minds. And when you tell me this is what my opponent does, thank God I am not my opponent, is what I say. Because we need people to move along beyond that, beyond the Guineas today. What about your family? What about your children? What about education opportunities for your children? What about health care for your parents who are aging today? We have more of an aging population, we've been told, you know. And so we need those things beyond the instant gratification. We have to be able to move our people beyond that, you know. And that is where it starts. It doesn't start with us. Maybe it will end with us, but it doesn't start with us. It starts with the people. Because every time you vote, you're voting for a voice. You're giving yourself a voice. And when your voice is demeaning yourself, when your voice is demeaning your family, every person on earth has a mother. You're saying, I agree. I agree. And that is what Marcella, myself, and Liana have been pushing for. And I'm so happy to see our men standing up for us in that regard. You know, on Sunday, last Sunday, when we had our live, when I spoke about how I was treated and the things that was because I spoke up and I stood up for our women. And this is where veracity is the word of the day today, alongside misogyny. We have to make sure that when somebody says something to us, just because the person is a minister of government, doesn't make it truthful. The person can say it with all of their verbosity and all of their anger and all of their power and all of their might. That does not make it right. And so, Mr. Son, this is for you today. Listen to my voice, hear my voice, understand my voice. And so next time somebody says or ascribes something to me, you will know whether it is me or whether it isn't me. You understand?
Would you like to enlighten us as to?
Well, we would have known that the minister of the parliamentarian for Castries Central would have said that I would have called him a name, and I called it a certain talk show, and I called him that name. He said I called him a pig.
Did you?
And my answer to that is, why would I call anybody, you, Timothy, or anybody, and tell them the sky is blue? I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? Everybody in St. Lucia knows who Richard Frederick is. They know what he stands for. And not just us. American Embassy knows. Interpol knows. Every state department, every police department around the world knows who Richard Frederick is. I don't have to call a talk show to say who he is. But the long and short of it wasn't me. It was not me. And I should not have to defend myself, because I believe that all the brilliance that we're talking about our people, we like to boast that we have 2 Nobel laureates, we have this, we're moving on, we're moving on. The least that you could do is to verify the source of whatever it is that you're saying. Same for the minister of government who said that I said it, and same for our constituents. Same for our constituents, because you have a mother. Most of us have girl daughters, girl children. We have aunties, we have grandmothers. There are women in our lives. Okay? And even if somebody were to call you a name, does that mean that you have to go down in their private parts, demean them, bully them? That's not right. We teach our children against that kind of thing, but we accept it from grown men and women. That is wrong. It speaks volumes. It speaks to our character when we accept that kind of thing, and that is wrong. So the words for today are misogyny and veracity. So, Marcella, let us talk a little bit about abuse, women abuse. Now we talked a little bit. We gave a little bit of verbal abuse. You know, when people are just and you know, to me, Andre, verbal abuse is sometimes even worse than physical abuse. It's worse because in your mind you cannot take it away. The bruise on your body may fade away, but you see what's in your mind. You see what's in your mind. It can never go away. And when somebody hits you, they bruise your body. That is you. But when somebody verbally abuses you and in public, imagine your father. Imagine my father calls me and tells me, this is what somebody's saying about you. Imagine you, Andre, you have a daughter. Imagine you as a father hearing somebody abuse your daughter, your beautiful daughter, like that. How would you feel? I'm a wife. Marcella is a wife. Can you imagine our husbands? Can you imagine how our husbands feel when they hear a man like them talk about their wives that way? It's not nice. And we talk about violence. When you look at the history, when you look at the statistics, of a violent crime in St. Lucia, a lot of it has to do with domestic violence. You know, I remember one time talking, this guy who stabbed another guy because the guy went out with his girlfriend. The guy died and he's in bodily. And guess what? The girl is out there and she has another boyfriend. And where are you? Where are you? Sometimes you hear a man speak so badly of your wife, that triggers you. That triggers you. We have to learn to take accountability and responsibility for the things that we say. Mental abuse, our mental health is so vitally important. And as Marcella said earlier, our women, we are the cradle of society. We are the ones who we nurture these children from within our wombs and we bring them forth. Can you imagine now your girl daughter, your girl child coming home and telling you that a boy at school felt it okay to demean her? How would you feel? So mental abuse, verbal abuse, it takes a ripple effect and it affects more than just the person who is being abused or attacked. It affects more. What do you think? What's your take on that, Marcella?
My take on domestic violence, okay. In the constituency of Grosley, there have been a few women, more recently, but quite a few. I remember Alana Bernard. Her case, this girl was brutally raped, and her case would have been heard the following day, but she was murdered. Murdered right just a few feet from her home. And she has children all under the ages of 10. Right? And this could have been avoided if we had a proper system for women who are victims of abuse, domestic violence. she should have been in a home, some sort of a witness protection. We need to look at what is happening with our home in St. Lucia. From my understanding, that home has been closed. There's no safe house for women, no proper justice system. The length of time it goes through the court system. Some women abandon the cases. Justice delayed is justice denied. And for somebody like Alana Bernard and Jolie Williams, who was trying to save her life, and yet still the system failed her. Even when I go back to the women in the police force, an institution who's supposed to protect the citizens of this country, and women in the police force came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct over a high-ranking police officer. This matter has not been investigated properly. And Andrea, you know, if something is being investigated in a business organization, usually the employee is probably sent home with pay whilst the matter is being investigated, but not to remain in the environment and cause more discomfort and harm to the individuals. So that has happened, so much so that this individual is promoted. How do you expect these women police officers to feel? Their family, the male counterparts, you know? Because not all men are the same. And as men have mothers, sisters. So they also feel the pain of women as well, because not all the men are the perpetrators. So it is something we have to look at. If our society does not take heed of this, misogyny will continue, and we have to take a stand and say no to this in society. And there are women in cabinet. The same women who are attacking me today are part of this government. And this SLP government has failed where women are concerned, failed where crime is concerned, failed where the crisis of the cost of living is concerned. And don't tell me, when this was happening to the women in the police force, where were the women in cabinet? Did they come out and say anything? Silence. Where was the Prime Minister? Did he come out and say anything? Silence. Where was Lisa Jawahir, a senator? Did she come out and speak out against this particular high-ranking police officer in the police force? Where is this high-ranking officer today? Did she speak up? Did she come out and speak against it? But today you will tell me you're going to defend a lie for the Labour Party and attack another woman and call her a liar? Is that acceptable? Are we going to accept that kind of behavior in our society? When women are being disrespected, women are being treated as second-class citizens? No! We have to send a signal to the young people in this country that harassment against women should not be tolerated. How many of us women who grew up in the Castries Basin and so on, growing up, you walk on the boulevard, you go through Constitution Park, men think it's okay to just harass women, you know, call you all kind of names, you know, as you go by. Now women, even young girls in school uniform, they feel uncomfortable. Women probably think that's the norm, but no, that's not the norm. That's harassment. Dressed up as if it's okay. And we have to let St. Lucians know what is the correct behaviors. We need to start with our young people, the school system, to bring back respect to our society. Teach our young men that women should be protected. Women should not be objectified. Women are partners in society. Women are there to help all persons in society. We are there to uplift others. We are the teachers. We are the doctors. We are the homemakers. We make the decisions in the home when the cost of living is rising. We have to decide how we juggle the finances to take care of our family so that we can survive, our family can survive. So once society understands that as a woman, when a woman is taken care of, a nation is taken care of. A nation will go forward because women think differently. Women act differently. As a woman, we know how to act in certain situations. I will not behave that kind of way and behave like how some of these men in the cabinet with Lisa and Modi are behaving. No, we have to raise the bar and set the example. These behaviors should not be tolerated.
And it's very important. It's one of the things that I've noticed, Andre, is that when you're talking about apples, somebody will start talking about grapes. Right? Somebody will start talking about grapes because they want to deflect from what you are saying because they recognize that what you are saying has merit, so they want to talk about grapes. So they'll tell you, but what about this and what? When will it stop? When will it stop? At some point, we need to start. We need to start and make a change. And no time like the present. What has passed has passed. Like, for instance, when La Corbinière, there were two young girls who were allegedly molested in Derek Walcott Square. When La Corbinière, who was the justice minister at the time, said, you call it rape, but I don't. What can I do about that statement now, today in 2025? There's nothing I can do about it. He has said it. It has passed. The girls, bless their hearts, they have moved on. There's nothing I can do about it. But when it is happening today, it behooves me to just say, oh, we'll forget about it. This is how a culture permeates. And we have to try to change it now. We have to try to change it now. What has happened in the past has happened. We cannot do anything about it. But we can be mindful of it. We can be reminded of it. Because once you know where you have come from, the path to where you are going is clear. It is clear. There have been women who have been, I don't want to say gifted, because the thing that they have said has happened to them is so horrendous and egregious. It does not come across as a gift. However, because of the position that they're in, because of where they are coming from, because of the platform that they have, could have made life better for women today. And they squandered it. They squandered those opportunities. And when the heat was too much, they've said, and that's okay. That is your right. Because not everybody can stand up to the fire. But what I want to say is, when there are women who are finally standing up, don't denigrate them. Don't try to bring them down. Don't try to tell them, oh, but this, that, and the third happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Because if we could have done something about it, you also could have done something about it. The fact that you did not do anything about it then, and you are comfortable with it happening now, speaks volume about your character and not of the women and men who are trying to stamp it out. And we all have to accept that we have a responsibility. Everybody's looking for a hero, Andre. Everybody's looking for a hero. But what about the hero that is within us? When we go to our homes, we have influence over at least 4 people. At least, some of us more so. So let us take a page from that and let us move with alacrity. Let us, we're moving forward and we're changing our mindset. We're changing our mindset so life can be better, not for me or for Marcella, but for her grandchildren, for your little girl. These are the persons that we are fighting for. These are the people that we are working towards having a better St. Lucia for. It's not about those that have gone before us. They are past. It is not for us. We are here. It is for those who are coming.
Now, Marcella, I get the impression that you're not quite satisfied with the results of this investigation into the senior police officer you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite satisfied, Andre. And I just heard Laura mention that you have a daughter.
Yes.
Okay.
I have two, actually.
So you have two daughters.
Yes.
So you understand the plight of women. So it's good that you have two daughters so you could understand what women are going through. So I'll ask you a question. As a cabinet minister would have come on live television, his show, and would have made a comment to the effect of me wanting to want my husband with him, right? How would you feel if that was said about your daughters or your mother? Tell me, as a man.
Well, definitely, I'm not pleased about that. I'm not impressed by that, and more so, I think more people should be condemning those statements.
Exactly. And there's silence from the cabinet ministers, the prime minister, the women in cabinet. It is sad in our country today. Very, very sad.
But let me ask you then. In fact, before I go there, I asked you a question about the investigation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not satisfied.
I mean, if an investigation was conducted, which it was, and I think the police commissioner said that basically this case cannot continue, was to that effect, right? Shouldn't you be, accept it? Because the fact that you're raising it again, don't you think that again that puts a sort of doubt in people's minds as to the fairness of the investigation?
Andre, I'll answer that with a question. How could the police investigate the police?
Well,
how could the police investigate the police? Just listen to that ring in your ears. Does that sound right?
But
so you need to have a mechanism whereby offenses in the police force are investigated through an external body, not the police themselves. There would be bias. And if the officers are still allowed to come to work, there will also be some level of intimidation on those female officers.
But
so
also
it's not
ask
fair.
yourself.
It is not fair, Andre. It is not fair. And the fact of the matter is, when a woman is defiled, right, it is not a nice thing. I will give you an example of women who have been raped and what they say it is. When a woman is raped, when a woman is raped, she cannot go and bathe or clean herself. She had to take herself in all that mess, go down to a police station, and chances are, when she gets to the police station, you know who she'll encounter?
A male?
Most likely another male. After she has encountered the trauma of being raped, she might encounter a male. And then would have to relieve the experience over to a male person at the counter. We would have to take a report. And in relieving the experience of such a real disgusting incident, what do you think will happen to the male police officer across the counter? Just imagine as a male having to go through the gory details, okay? So you have to relay the story to this person. Then now you have to be medically examined. Mm-hmm. When you go to the hospital, most likely who will examine you again? Okay? Then you have to go through the court system, and in our country, it is long and protracted. So much so that sometimes most of these victims of sexual assault abandon the cases because of the trauma, because of the lack of justice. So there needs to be swift justice in this country. So when you tell me you have all this in a system that's failing us, what do you think is happening? And then you go back to the women in the police force. This man's colleagues have to investigate him. What do you think will happen in a society like ours where everybody knows everybody?
The last time the leader of the opposition was on this very program, I asked him that question. Why don't we have a sort of system that that we have in Jamaica? The INDICOM, the independent organization investigating police officers and so on. He said it's a question of resources. And apparently the impression I got was that government doesn't have the resources to have such an
Well, you
organization.
see, I think that's
so this is what we have. We just have police investigating police. This is what it
This
is.
is a cop out. This is
I
a
don't
cop
think
out.
it's about-
Hold on, Marcella. I think this is a cop out because Andre, we have seen the copious amount of money that has been spent. Okay, especially now, that money could have been diverted into the things that are of priority, and this is why I say to people all the time, when you vote, think about who you are voting for and what voice you are giving yourself. What voice you are giving yourself. Because if we stand up and say, this is what should be of priority to us, this is what's going to be of priority to us. It's not about the 17 men and women. I keep saying that. It's about the men and women that we give a voice to. We have to demand that this thing. And then another thing, Marcella was saying, how is it that the top cop will amass this file, send it to the DPP, be convicted within himself that it is fit to be prosecuted, tell us it is fit to be prosecuted, and when it gets there, 3 of the 4 files are dismissed because why? Ask yourselves that when you're perpetrated, you know how it is when you're at school? You're at school and there's a bully, and every time you have to go into that classroom and that bully is there, how terrified and petrified you are. But you have recourse. You can go to a teacher who can defend you. But when you're now an adult and you go to work and you have been given the task of defending, protecting, and serving, and you yourself cannot be protected and served, and you have to go into work and knowing that this person is getting promoted. That person is getting promoted despite the number of allegations against them, and they just cannot seem to be held at bay. And they just keep getting promoted. What do you think is going to happen? And that person is staring at you, and that person, you have to report to that person. How do you think you're going to feel? And it's taking such a long time to go through the system. How do you think you're going to feel? How do you think you're going to feel? So after a while, the strongest of the strong is going to say, no, I am determined to get justice. And let me tell you something. This is not the only incidence of this. This is happening, and it's happening across the board in many different industries. I recently spoke with a victim, and she's telling me, in the presence of the police officers who are investigating, her attacker is saying, but once you let me go, I'm going to come back for this person. And you heard what Marcella said? The women's shelter is closed. It's closed. So where are you taking her? Where are you going to send her so that she can get respite? Where is the protection, the witness protection? And you're telling me we don't have the resources? Your women are being slaughtered mentally, physically, emotionally, psychically, and you're telling me we don't have the resources? We need to make the resources available, because we have the resources to do plenty other things. We need to make it available.
So, Marcella, you asked me the question earlier as to how I would feel.
Yes.
So you tell me now, how do you feel coming under this onslaught, especially in relation to your marriage and so on?
Let me tell you something, Andre. I grew up with 6 brothers. So you know what that is? I'm a tough woman. Because when I grew up because I'm the middle child. So I grew up with my 3 older brothers. So anything they were doing, I wanted to do it. And I always felt I could do it better than them. So I've been fighting all my life to be one of the boys, right? So when he think he attacking me, I'm not somebody that can get intimidated. No. When you attack me, I deal with it. I don't run and hide and go in a corner. So yes, it is disrespectful, especially, I have a husband. How you think my husband would feel? I have 2 young men who don't treat women in that manner. How you think my sons will feel hearing that? I have brothers, I have a father. How you think they will feel? And you have 5 daughters, you parading on your show, and you're so proud of your daughters. But you will do that to another man's daughter? So it is very disrespectful, especially to all the other women he has demeaned. Look at what he did to a fellow reporter, Lisa. Did Lisa deserve that for asking a question that she found in the impacts report, what he was referred to in the impacts report? And he's calling that an attack for asking questions for her doing her job? No. And he has to understand that we women are not afraid of him. Well, I am not afraid of him. And I will defend what I know is right and just. And if I'm around and any other woman is being attacked, I will stand with them. I will stand and fight for the women of this country, because we need to right the wrong. We need to raise the bar in this country where women are concerned, especially to our single mothers who are sometimes, they get the brutal end of this, because sometimes because of their low finances, they have to stay in relationships which are abusive. And we have to tell them, this has to stop. We have to provide the resources, the safe houses, the legal mechanisms for them, so that they know that there is an alternative, that they don't have to continue this abuse. Now, you asked me the question about the police force and why you think they don't have a separate unit. I am not in government right now, but that excuse of lack of resources, I don't buy it. Anything can be done as long as you have a plan. They have no plan, and there's no will to do it. What does it take to
By the way, that resources answer came from the leader of the opposition. I asked him that question.
Not having the resources to put in a
because
team.
I asked him why wasn't that done during his time.
And okay, so his answer was he didn't have the resources at the time. Not that he didn't want to implement it.
We were coming out of COVID.
Okay.
We had so many different things.
Okay, so at a time, if you recall, when the leader of the opposition was in office, he only got about 3 years to really lead this country. COVID really took a turn on what was happening in St. Lucia in terms of the plans that would have been implemented. Having the resources, all resources were directed toward COVID at the time. And in so doing, there would not have been resources to be able to divert to having that separate unit. But having a separate unit is vital. Now, it may not necessarily have to be a St. Lucia unit. If we look at across the region, maybe we could look at a team, an independent team across the region to investigate crimes within the police force, not necessarily St. Lucia alone. So we probably may have to go that route. We should be thinking of partnering with our other Caribbean islands in that kind of situation, because we want justice in the police force. And if we look at it from that angle, the police officers, if they come from the region, would not be familiar with the persons in the force. So then they would be inclined to take the justice or take action that is needed to be able to put closure to some of these issues. And it's not only limited to domestic violence, rape, abuse, and so on. There are other facets of our society that we need this kind of intervention to be able to bring some sort of order to society. You know, our children are on the streets. They are dying. Our kids are being slaughtered. Weapons are coming into the country. How is it coming in? It is coming through our borders. Okay? We need to look at that. We need to curb the entry of illegal firearms into our country, because it's killing our children. I go to funerals and mothers are bawling down by coffins. You know, it hurts me. It's painful. And people are going about in St. Lucia as if it's business as usual. Now, I'm not saying that any one administration can do away with crime completely, no. But you can do something about it. You can implement measures to reduce crime. So you have to show that you are in this, you are going to speak out against it, you are going to put plans in place, you are going to work with the police, work with the community, work with the youth, put in programs to ensure that we prevent crime. But right now, from where I'm sitting, this is not happening. And a United Workers' Party government will ensure that we combat crime in the best way that we can by putting in measures to curb the crime situation.
Now, additionally, Andre, when Marcella was answering, she touched on the COVID, and we seem to have very short memories. COVID was a big part of the last administration's burden to bear, but we also have forgotten that prior to coming in, it was a Kenny Anthony who said to us that they could not borrow money. They did not have money. So the first 2 years of the United Workers' Party administration, we had to right that wrong. We had to fix it. Then once you fixed it, and then you could have prioritized whatever monies that you were able to get, then we were hit with COVID that we did not know. We had never known, and we did not know what to do with. So we have to be very mindful and not be forgetful of the things that happened prior. So I can understand where the leader of opposition would have said, they just didn't have the resources. They didn't. But today, and that is the thing, when we're talking about apples, let us not deflect and talk about grapes. It's like me having my husband, and every time we have a little thing, we're talking about my ex. My ex is my ex for a reason, right? My husband is my husband for a reason. So let us focus on the here and now. Yes, we know where we've come from, and these are the two main issues that affected the last administration. A government that came in, wherein even the last administration, the previous administration to them admitted there was no money, and then we were hit with COVID, which we had no idea about. But we're not here just to talk about the ills only. Let's talk about some of the solutions, Marcella.
By the way, do you plan to take calls at any time?
We will take some calls.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just let the listening public know the numbers, and
Sure.
then we'll open up in about maybe, let's say, 5-10 minutes.
Okay, the numbers. The fixed line is 572-9710. Fixed line 572-9710, or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Again, the fixed line 572-9710, or WhatsApp is 287-0971.
Wonderful. So we'll open in about 5 to 10 minutes. Let's just continue on that track, because Marcella opened that door a little bit about the solution. So we talked about a little bit about maybe how we can begin to attack crime. But what about, we talked a lot about the abuse of women, how we can help them once they're already in the situation. Because there are a lot of women out there who are in the situation and they have nowhere to turn to. And they're trying to make it happen for themselves. Like Alana, I think it was Alana who was it Alana
Bernard.
that was at the guest house trying to...
No, that was Jolie
That was
Williams.
Jolie Williams. Women like Jolie Williams who are taking their protection in their own hands because they cannot trust the system to protect them. What are some of the issues? What are some of the resources, or what are some of the things that we can do coming into government that can assist with that?
What we can do is ensure that we build proper safe houses for these women, ensure that it's properly protected. And at these houses provide resources where they could learn skills, upskill themselves. Because one of the things that women faced with by entering these kinds of relations is the lack of income. So they depend on their spouses for their survival. So it keeps them in some of these situations. So it would be good when they're in those safe houses that we provide some sort of skills training so that they now can go into the workplace and be able to generate income, whether it be through proper employment or entrepreneurship, so that they can take care of themselves. So they don't have to depend. They don't have that kind of dependency syndrome that keeps them in those kinds of hurtful situations.
So you're saying if your party wins the next election, it won't be a safe house, it'll be safe houses.
But we
Yes,
need
it is
safe
needed.
houses.
It is needed. And not only for women, but we also have to look at vulnerable children. You know, vulnerable girls. What is happening there? I don't hear anything.
I don't think we have we have a massage place for the boys where they can
massage
for the boys. They can go in and overnight. We don't have something like that for the girls.
No. So we have to look at that in terms of the girls as well. How we can ensure that we channel their energies into something that would change their lives, so that instead of following a path, that they change the course of their future. Because, I mean, the reality is we have a lot of single parent households. And most of these parents, they probably work in the hotel industry, so they have to work long hours. And the children are at home, left to raise themselves. So sometimes they are left on the street, their friends and so on, and they may not be getting the proper guidance. So we need to find ways to solve that, whether it be through, there are certain ways we can resolve it. I could expand on it later, but we need to find ways to resolve it so that the children can have a place where they can go to and be taken care of while the parent is at work, and they are learning the right values, the right skills. So we need to bring back some sort of volunteerism back into our society. Remember, there was a time where it takes a village to raise a child. So we need to bring that sort of thing back into society so that the children can see that there's a better path. You know, we need to have anger management of the youth. We need to bring back clubs into our society, different kinds of clubs, you know, so that the energies can be channeled differently. So there's a lot that can be done, Laura. I don't want to go into too much detail at this point in time, but there's a lot that can be done.
But when you consider the number of women who have gone through the halls of government, right, who have power and so on, and they have not really effected much change because the same issues still persist, as that's what you're talking about, right? What makes you, the two of you, think that you can make a difference?
But Andrew, we've been saying it all along. We're not focused on what the past women did not do, because we had